Okay, so we have a new corporate identity. And the people who we are hosting today at the Design Talk did everything for the new CI, and we are very excited and very grateful for all the help that we got from them. So we would like to hear about the ideas behind the new corporate identity and everything that you want to show us, and so we can like start basically incorporating it everywhere in our institute. Without further ado, I will pass the microphone to Emmanuel. We are very excited to have you here, have the whole like Parco Studio, and yeah, we can't wait to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, people. I can't really see you, but I hope you are there, not sleeping and kind of waiting to listen what we're going to speak about. Together with me, there's Lori. Hello. Who's my partner that you haven't met yet, Dorsa, but she has been working with me from the very beginning, like in everything and on this project too. And you can see from there, this is the studio and the gallery, and over there are more people. Some of them you already know, and you have met since they were working on the visual identity too. So I have a presentation here that I'm trying to share. I'm not really a Zoom person, but do my best. Okay, now you see my presentation, right?
Yes, perfect.
But I don't see you anymore, so I'd like to. Yeah, maybe you can log in from there. Okay, we make some tricks. So again, I can find. Sorry, I told you I wasn't really Zoom person. Where the? You don't see the presentation anymore, or you do?
No, we cannot see it right now.
Let's try it again. Okay. Do you see it now?
Yes, perfect.
If you can also accept Lori, so we'll be able to see you on the other computer and see what you see. She's probably in the waiting list. I don't think no, you can do it from here. We'll get there. I wanted to do it in person. That's why. Okay, but you don't see the full screen, which is bad. Sorry, I'll try one last thing. Entire screen. Did it happen?
We can see it now full screen.
It was working. It was working. Just, okay. Okay, here we are. Sorry for the hiccups. Again, thank you again for having us here and for having us on this project. We try to give you a little bit more of the context of the project and also to share with you some insights about our studio practice. And what we tried to do with this presentation was to somehow show you other projects that somehow follow the same approach and the same design principles that we use for the new visual identity, for the new brand identity of the Academy, just to display how this project somehow fits into very specific research that we are trying to carry on when we can through all our projects. So here are our contacts, so feel free to go to our website and to follow us on Instagram, which is very important. So I'll remind that at the very end of the presentation. So this is our story, and Lori and I started working together back in 2010. We were way younger than today, and it was actually our first job. So we came back from the Netherlands, and we started right away the the studio. And at the very beginning, it was just the two of us, and working like external consultants and freelance for like other bigger agencies or like smaller projects and this kind of stuff. And in 2015, we opened the company. So after 5 years, and we started having employees and people working more directly with us. From 2015 to 2018, we ran this editorial project that was called Little John. That was like the Robin Hood friend, like the big one. There was our editorial project, and the reason why I'm mentioning this today is because for us was somehow a way to start questioning what's the role of graphic designer and graphic designers should be in our society, world, economical context, and these kind of things. Actually ended up being, it started as a magazine and it ended up being like a 3 issues publication, exploring like the impact of capitalism in very different level on our lives and in our practice. 2018, we started Belly Gallery. There was a side project of the studio, the very first graphic design gallery in Milan, in Italy, and one of the few in Europe. And for us, that was a way to, again, start reflecting on the role that we as people and graphic designers have in the world, and also to open up the discussion to like the neighborhood, the scene here in Milan, and mostly getting people from abroad to speak about their practice and their experiences. In 2019, we moved to this studio, and at the very beginning, the studio was in a place and the gallery was somewhere else. It was quite of a nightmare to constantly move from one to the other. So eventually in 2019, we managed to merge the two things together in the studio where we are now. And we also changed the name, so Parco di Yellowstone, which wasn't very friendly, neither for Italian speaker or for foreign people, just became Parco, and Belly Gallery, which means beautiful gallery in Italian, just became Parco Gallery. 2022, we started a new side project on top of Parco Gallery, which is called Hotpots. And since with the gallery, we were mainly focused on having exhibition and very practical practice-focused events and talk and experience, we kind of felt that we were missing some theoretical background, and we wanted to get back to study somehow. So with Hotpot, we started inviting external editors to write and to speak with us and to write essays, basically, on theories, criticism, on graphic design, history, and contemporary scene, and so on. And those essays are now published on our website and get delivered first on our newsletter, and then at a certain point they get published on the website. We had one very first issue that was about the relation between graphic design, Swiss graphic design and Italian graphic design. And then we had one the year after that was basically describing and getting deep into all the practices through the history of graphic design and design more in general that eventually somehow blurred the presence of women in design. So there have been many different examples in history in where like very prominent figures of women designers somehow just disappeared because that's how the story went. I mean, just to mention one thing, normally women were credited on projects using their husband surname. So if someone at a certain point was just remarrying someone else, she would have been credited with a different surname. So you can imagine that for like listing and crediting the same people in books and like in report and logs, if the same person gets credited with 2 different surnames, it becomes harder and harder to trace back the origin of the work. but just a very brief history that somehow give you a little bit of hints on the things that we like to do and the things that we like to research. And we start putting some stuff on the table that somehow should tell you something more about the way we perceive graphic design. The projects that we're going to see today are a way to tell you that and to show you that every time that you get a project and every time that you get a commission from a client or from someone who is eventually going to pay you, there's always a way to embed your very personal point of view and to use those projects to serve both the need and the needs of the client, but also to give a slightly deeper message and to carry out messages that are relevant to you as a person and as a professional. This is the two of us. You might recognize us. She's the one in pink, and this is the studio that you have seen in the other room. Chiara, Martina, Chiara, Alessandro, Luca, Ludovica, Giulio, and Caterina, who couldn't be here today, so we just copy-pasted here in there. So this is our work. I'm not going to describe all of them. You can just get a glimpse and of the kind of aesthetic and the kind of visual language that we try to have across the different projects. This one in the middle is the first project that we made with the Academy. And we like to work in many different fields, like especially in the ones who are related to architecture, design, contemporary art, socio-cultural things, education, and these kind of things, and all the different interceptions of these fields. Okay, let's get to the presentation. Let's get to the point. This is a picture of Gaza. This is a picture of a street in Palestine taken somewhere in 2015. And the reason why we are starting with this project, this image is taken from this project that we started that we made almost 10 years ago with a client of ours that
Road and Transportation Master Plan
became quite important client for us. We've been working with them for many years and across many different projects. The reason why we are showing this project today and we are starting with this, it's not only to show you image of what this place used to be in until 10 years ago. I don't want to get into that. But the thing that I wanted to speak to you about is that the very first time, and I get back to these images in here, the client got in touch with us, and they were working on this master plan that was financed by Europe to somehow improve the communication and the structure of transportations in between West Bank and the Gaza Strip. We started talking with them to get a better knowledge of the kind of content they had. And one thing that caught our attention was that they had all these images taken from the very front of the car. So what you have seen in here are actually pictures that they use for their own research and for their work to investigate and to better understand how the transportation was working over there. What we noticed back then was that these kind of content and these kind of images were giving a very different image and a very different impression of that territory compared to the ones that we were used to. So that territory was displayed in a very cliche way. Already back then, while talking about these territories was meant talking about war, terrorism, bombs, and this kind of stuff. And to us, getting access to these kind of images was a way to better understand the normal everyday life of those places. And we kind of felt that that was the kind of content that we couldn't keep for ourselves. So it's not only related to the topic of the project, which explains something that is very technical, and then you get maps and you get to understand how the content, the transportation was working back then, and how the transportation could work if they could improve the transportation and getting rid of certain aspects. But it was also a way to somehow give a very new perspective and a very new point of view on a specific territory. And to us was the very first time that we felt that somehow with this kind of projects, we can constantly question the way that certain topics and certain territories and certain messages are normally displayed. And in our job, in our position, we get constantly access to content and to images that are that can easily change the way people look at certain things. And this is something that we somehow since then try to do in every different project. Feel free to interrupt me anytime. I don't see you, but Dorsa, just I see you on the other computer, so raise your hand and I'd stop. So change the topic completely. This is a visual identity that we designed a few years ago for a motorbikes brand. So basically these people here, these UFO people, are the ones who design the plastic parts of motorbikes. So if you get the motor, how do you call it? The outdoor, whatever, motocross, does it make sense in English? Probably, whatever. Sure. The ones that goes on the ground and not on the street. You get the thing. So basically, you can imagine that this is a very is a word that has a very precise language, a very precise visual language, and they somehow delivered constantly the same messages. Okay, so the way, for example, women are displayed in this very specific field has been always the same. Okay, so what we tried to do with this project was to find a way to somehow inject into the field a new way to speak about certain topics without changing too much the overall approach and the overall language. So this is just a glance of the visual identity that was based on this idea of like having a portal that opened on a different world, which is a world of possibility, excitement, jumps, and streets and this kind of stuff. But then at a certain point, we got the chance to realize a promotional movie for them. And again, we felt that there was a way to somehow speak not only about the brand, not only about the values of the brand, but also about something else that we could somehow inject in there in a very subtle way. So very briefly, this is another video. It's actually a short movie, the very first and the very last short movie we wrote and co-directed. And again, it has to be about motorsports and motorbikes and this kind of stuff. But again, we tried to put in there a new language that somehow would question the way certain topics and certain issues are normally displayed within a certain environment. So the idea of having a dancer in there was something that was really like going against the status quo and the way certain actions and certain activities are normally displayed. So basically the story is that there's this person in there who's summarized all the different persons that can use the tools and the things that the brand produce. And the idea is that the whole storytelling is based on the fact that it's not about being the first one, but it's about trying out and try hard to achieve certain results. So this idea of racing and this idea of constantly racing just for the sake of racing and not for being the first in the competition. And what we tried to do was to put in there many different expressions of the brand and of the people that have a connection with the brand, which are normally not very seen in the communication of these fields. So you have seen the dancer. There are like at a certain point, there's a guy who got injured at a certain point, and he has a paralysis on his legs. So at a certain point, he wanted so hard to get back on the motorbike that he asked to build a special motorbike just to be able to keep running. And then there's a guy who is like 70 years old who is still jumping and doing the motor freestyle kind of thing. So the idea again, and here you see some content that we have been produced all around the main video. The first one on top left is this 70 years old guy doing these kind of things. The second one, top right, you see that the motorbike is quite weird. It has this structure. And this is just because he cannot use his leg to be there. And that's how other people hold the guy until he start off. And every time he falls down, someone has to go there and pick him up. Then there's the old guy who's the owner on the company. And then there's Chiara, who is the one of the main women in motorsports in Italy. So the idea was also to speak about the brand, but to speak about the sector and the environment in a new way, giving and highlighting persons who are normally not really there anymore. Everything sounds super exciting and super nice, but that's actually the very last project that we did with them. At a certain point, they just changed. The owner of the company just changed, and he didn't really like what we did in there. And I think at this point, they went back to a very more traditional kind of communication. So it's not always working, but I think it's worth trying. And the worst case, you get a nice story to speak about in presentation. And at a certain point, we got to work with this LGBTQIA plus association here in Milan. This is the very first project that we did with them, and that was about this chat line that they open to get in touch with people who have like issues and want to speak about their life and their problem. And then after this project, we got to work on their very old visual identity. They are called SIG, CIG. And the reason why we are sharing this project is because of the eye that you can see in the middle of the logo. Somehow, which is a person, okay? So, spoiler. The reason why we find this project interesting is because it gave us a way to question representation once again, okay? So if you think about the history of graphic design, Otto Neurath and the guys used to draw in pictograms, you can see that there's that normally icons have genders, okay? So what we found interesting here was the challenge to somehow display a person and display a person at the core of the brand without, you know, claiming the gender or without sexualizing the person, but just, you know, taking it down to the very basic shape and still be able to recognize it, which is something that somehow we carried on to the new AVA visual identity. This is just, for the graphic design, just some props and assets we produce for them. This leads we to the second last project that we're going to speak about today. This is the Arc Week. We have weeks in Milan, which means that every week, almost every week of the year, is dedicated to something special. We have like the Art Week, we have the Design Week, we have the Art Week, and many different weeks about all kind of topics that you can imagine. We got in charge last May to design the communication of the Architectural Week. And working with the curator back then, she was fascinated by this idea that week and week, so the 7 days and like not being strong sounds pretty much the same in English. So somehow there was already in there a critique to this mass production of content and opportunities and events here in Milan. If you have been to the Design Week in Milan, you know what I'm talking about. So the idea was to somehow claim this weakness and to print out this weakness everywhere in the city, somehow claiming the right to be weak. Okay, so to us, once again, it was a way to put something else in there, which wasn't only the main subject of the campaign, but was something that could speak to a broader audience. So it's not only about the Architectural Week, but it's about people leaving the city and crossing the streets in the city. So this is pretty much how it looked like. Many different formats. It was kind of everywhere during that week, and it was really nice to see this very functional structure with this like almost graffiti-liking words in there, as someone was really like vandalizing and going over the different supports and the different formats. So this is one in the metro. This is one, and all of them were pretty big. So everywhere you could see these words popping up. So week was the main key visual and the main subject. Week again. So everywhere during that week, you could literally everywhere see something saying that it's fine to be weak. You can claim it and you can somehow be proud of it. And that reminds us of this that you might have seen before. This is in English. They live. Carpenter movie about aliens brainwashing people. So you at a certain point, the guy get these glasses, and as soon as he puts the glasses on, he can see what the advertising really say. So instead of buy this toothbrush, the hidden message was obey, consume, stay asleep, reproduce, buy. This is actually where obey, the brand, came from. So somehow we felt that our campaign was behaving somehow the same, but instead of pushing like those kind of messages, which we were injecting messages that were inviting people to talk, to take a walk, to ask questions, to participate in a different way that is not consuming or this kind of related stuff. And this is what looked like. This is one of the main train station, metro station in Milan. So it was pretty massive. This is an Easter egg. Here in Milan, we got the team that won the Serie A for the football fans over there. So right after they won it, they put this champions sign on top of the building. But right on top of the champions, it was saying week. So it was kind of funny for us to see how the campaign itself worked as an hack of the city and the other messages in the city. Last project, and then we get to the visual identity. I'm sorry if it was a little bit long. Last year in May, we got invited in this festival that we have here in Italy, in a nearby city, which is called Torino. They have these Torino Graphic Days that you should visit at a certain point, and invited us to have a piece in the exhibition that could somehow express our point of view and our position once again about the role of graphic designers in the world, and we twisted out to be some sort of recommendation to young designers, to colleagues and other professionals, but somehow to everyone. So because
to ourselves
and to ourselves first of all, as we always do. Yeah, that's the reason why we are sharing it with you today, because it's a message that we like to spread and to share. But before that, there's one thing about graphic design and the way we intend graphic design that I'd like also to share. There was a pile of poster in the middle of the room, and I went there to pile the poster, and I was in a hurry because I parked the car the wrong way, so I had to do it fast. So I threw the poster in there, and I took this picture because I was kind of freaking out because the pile wasn't perfectly aligned. So you might be familiar with like control obsession and control mania. That was really something that then I got back to the car, went to have lunch, came back to Milan. I was constantly thinking about the fact that that pile wasn't really piled properly. And that's how the installation was presented. So it was this old building. So we had these two pieces that we are going to tell you more in a sec, with the pile exactly in the middle, not perfectly aligned. Got back to Milan. It was evening. At a certain point, I started looking at Instagram, and I realized there were people like tagging us that were visiting the exhibition because it was already open. So this is what I got right after that. Mysteriously enough, at a certain point, the piles were two. So it wasn't not only perfectly aligned, but it turned out that someone just got there and split the pile in two. And that, you can imagine, I was browsing the Instagram stories, and at a certain point, it turns out like this. Oh, sorry. No, I did something wrong. Oh, Jesus. Be back. I was trying to... Holy fuck. You see it again? Okay. So the reason why we are sharing this, you can imagine the first time I freaked out. So I saw it and I sent the video to Laurie that was somewhere else back then. And I was like, what do we do with it? What shall I do? Shall I call them and complain about the fact that nobody took care of our posters that were supposed to be perfectly piled in there? And she was like, let it go. I mean, leave it as it is. So the reason why we're...
I actually liked it.
Yeah, I was really like, I mean, it's okay. It's fun, but that wasn't the way we planned. So that was really like hitting me and making me struggling with that. And then once again, which is something that we constantly try to remind ourselves, is that once that you finish a project and once that you deliver the project to the outside world, the project is not yours anymore. And at a certain point, everything you design is going to, hopefully, is going to be taken, broken, adapted, hacked by someone else. And I mean, you need to think about these kind of aspects while designing too. So the things that we design, and at least that's what we're trying to do, are almost never like close items or close structure, but we try to understand them and to design them as as open systems in where someone at a certain point step in and do whatever he or she wants with your design that you carefully align and carefully design and carefully checked. Sometimes you freak out. Most of the time you step back and you enjoy the way that actually that's actually a way to make the project real and not only like a file on your computer or a picture on your Instagram feed. So these were the two posters, and as you saw before, they say be here now and go out there, and they were facing each other, and apparently they actually state two very opposite messages. But to us, this is the way that we should constantly approach our practice and contemporary society too, in a broader sense. Be here now means be focused on what you're doing and be aware of the time you are living in. I mean, designing something today is different from designing something tomorrow, and is totally different from what people before us have designed before. So be aware of the society, the context that you live in, and go out there. So don't stay close in your laptop, in your room, in your studio, but step out and go to the outside world, speak with people, see what other people are willing for and are looking for, because somehow designing, it's about getting people involved. I mean, it's always about building a relation in between the message and the people who are actually going to get the message you design. So just get some water. Okay. So this takes us to the very last project, this AVA design. I don't know, Darcy, they've seen something, right?
I mean, our website is already online.
Yeah, that's right. So this is the new logo, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with the old ones, but it kind of changed pretty drastically. And I'm sorry, Seyal and Tommaso can be here today, because that was actually the result of quite some discussions and quite some exchanges, because as you can imagine from the previous work, for all of us, and I'm putting like people from the school into this as well, redesign the visual identity of the academy was also a way of questioning what does it mean to run a school today. Okay, what are like the ways and the messages and the values that you as a school, as a place where people get together to do something, should somehow promote and speak about. So the very key structure are these sticks, and the thing that we liked about this logo and the overall visual identity is that these sticks somehow hold each other together, and somehow it's pretty evident in the A, because the two sticks the diagonal sticks somehow seems like they are always almost falling down, but they never do. And they never do because one is supporting the other. And this idea of having a structure which stays together and in where everyone somehow supports each other also, and even if the structure seems to fall down from one moment to the other, that was a good way to represent a school and your academy. So the idea wasn't to promote like strong attitudes and you know, being the first or being excellent, but was a way to again embrace fragility, embrace weakness, embrace mistakes, and be aware of the fact that you are in there as individuals, but you are also there as a community. And the community and the individuals are the two equally relevant part of this equation. Everyone is in there. Every stick is there, and the stick is pretty visible in there. But a stick got a new meaning by interacting with the other sticks. And the reason why we mentioned the LGBTQIA plus this design project before was because this idea of representing people by displaying and showing their characteristics that are not like gender, colors, but are more like the way they interact with each other and what is made possible by the way they interact with each other. So the very most important elements of the visual identity are these sticks that somehow combine together and combine together in many different ways. They can become messy, they can become very rigid, they can build structure that can be more solid or a little bit weaker. So what we liked about this was that with very simple elements, we were able to generate a very broad range of possibilities and composition. So this is the reasons and the approach behind the logo, and how the logo lives in the different materials and in the different animations. So as I was saying before, the structure and then the composition that you can generate with these elements are countless, and they can be very different from one another. And eventually they will always describe somehow a way to live the school and be and the way you can be a community within the school. Since we are among designers, a few words about the typeface. So designing the visual identity of an art and design school, it is challenging because again, as in every fields, there are like stereotypes and there are like predetermined solutions. In here, we wanted to find something that could get along with the logo, and at a certain level, be able to deliver this idea of function and structure, but somehow being a little bit warmer. So we could have gone for like the very traditional, like Helvetica, like typeface, but we wanted to go into something that is a little bit weirder and a little bit stranger, that gives somehow this feeling that everything is in place, but somehow it behaves differently from everything else. One very important thing in the visual identity were like the key messages that we wanted to deliver with the visual identity. One of the main topics that we discussed from the very beginning with Seyal and Tommaso was, what does it mean to teach something to students, and what are the many different ways that you have to work with these kind of people. And the thing that we agreed on was that teaching is a process. It's a non-linear process. It's a process made of failures, mistakes, experiments going wrong. And the only thing that you can do is to keep studying and keep learning and keep practicing. And then you might reach a solution, but you might also not, and that will be fine. You are in there for learning, and you're not there for like producing the ultimate piece of design. So I don't know. I don't think they're already there, but we have been working on some let's say, motivational assets and motivational materials that will pop up in the academy at a certain point that will hopefully keep you focused on what are you there for? Study, learning, trying out, experimenting, failing, try again, never giving up, making mistakes. And making mistakes can be fun, and it can be like, can open up like opportunities and solutions you never thought of. And remember to be gentle to yourself. I mean, those mistakes somehow makes you feel bad. I mean, that's what they do with me since I was a kid. But we need to learn that making mistakes and go to the wrong path, it's part of the learning process, and it's part of what we do. And we should somehow remember to constantly be gentle to ourselves and to allow ourselves to do these kind of things. We're getting to the end, so we stayed into the hour and we have still time for questions. This is just to give you a better understanding of how the visual identity roll out and how the different elements get all together. So how do we use the sticks, the colors? It's a super colorful visual identity. We try to not be too obvious with the colors, so not use like primary colors, but try to build color palettes which can be strange at first. And that's it. That's the final message that you'll find hanged in the school at a certain point. Keep that in mind, because that's probably the most important thing to keep working in our field and probably everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, I was there when we were working on it, but still it was really nice to hear from you, like every step, what was the thought behind it. So normally we have a session of like Q&A. So people from like the academy students, if you have any questions, please either raise your hand or just write in the group chat and I will read it out. Till you come up with your questions, I will also go ahead with mine, if that is okay. So like at some point you were mentioning exactly the point that like you also closed your presentation with about basically like these messages of I don't know, maybe just like some sort of a inspirational message. I was thinking to myself and like, thinking like how important is it? Because you also mentioned about the theory and how important is it to have it behind your design. It will be really helpful for us to know from you as a professional, like how do you find your, message? How do you find your inspirational message? And how do you basically like, aside from the academies, basically point of like, project with the others, like, is it something that you look for throughout your, work process, or is it something that you start with?
But you mean like the messages specific, or where do we find inspiration? So
no, more than like inspirations. That's also a good point if you can, describe a little. But I was more like it was more important to me to know, for example, like with the LGBTQ like project and with the other project, is that something that you have in mind before you start with the design, or is that something that just comes up as you go on and basically find your voice throughout the project?
You want to go? Shall I?
Yeah, but
for us, one of the most important thing is to start with content. Actually, there's a message somewhere on our website that says that we do visual strategies or visual, I can't call it exactly now, for worth sharing content. So for us, working with the real content of our client, it's super important. And that's how we managed to do work and project like the very first one. Okay, so you need to understand what they want to say and what they have to say it and what they have to prove their point. And also we work quite in a strict collaboration with our clients. So we literally work together on the project. And we constantly say that we can advise our clients on what's the best way for us to display a concept. We can help them structuring the messages, but eventually it's their identity. So once that we are done with the work, they are left with their identity and their project. So it's something that they should feel as their own. And then every project is different. I mean, in the week campaign, there was something that came from the curator of the week, and we just built on top of it. With the LGBTQ project, it was something that at a certain point we felt the need to put in there. But also in there, we run a survey with all the how to say, the people in the associations, asking them what do they want the new visual identity to express. So in that case, it's very important to drive the discussion not on solutions, but on issues. Okay, so we need clients and people in the client sphere to raise questions and to raise issues, so we can build on top of that to provide our solutions. Okay, and then there are certain topics that we particularly care about. So this idea of how do you represent people and how do you represent a person without, you know, being without falling into the stereotypical representation. It's one thing that we still have some work to do. We are not there yet, but we try to think about it and to consider it in every project, and that's how you get to a certain solutions.
Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to add, because maybe I already read also the other question that we have, and I think it can answer to both things. That we, at a certain point, we decided to work with topics we care about, and that was a big shift in our way of working. So this question was about young design. It's about young designers and what would be the advice we will give to designers and students. And I think this is an advice that I would like to do. I would like to have received in my student years, that I think it's very important to deal with stuff that you care about. Also, there's a quote by Bob Gill, one of the Pentagram founders, that say, I think it was Bob Gill, I'm not completely sure, but he said, have an opinion about a project. First thing before designing, have an opinion on that, have an opinion. And I think it's super strong and is super true for everything we do. So that's it's not my advice, but it's what Gil's one. And maybe the other thing that I think it's true. It might be more difficult for designers now, but I mean, it's hard because it's easier to see stuff, easier to learn, but maybe you see too much, and it's kind of this comparison thing is super huge, and maybe what I would have liked to hear when I was younger too, it's that you can be what you want. I mean, you don't need to align with the rest of the world. You don't need to be in the right place. You can be out of place, and maybe that's gonna be your way of doing it, and it's right.
And I would just add one thing. Give yourself the time for doing things. And it was hard for us too. We started like the two of us coming back from the Netherlands, coming back to Milan. We had no connections, no people to work with. We knew anyone. I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but I mean, we didn't have like family connections and this kind of stuff. So in the very first, I would say 8 years, we did everything. Okay. We did like all kind of job. We tried to find different ways to pay the bills, basically, and at a certain point we started pretty soon to feel the need of doing something we care about, and that's how the magazine project started. The reason why we started the magazine project, and also the reason why we started the gallery. And then at a certain point, we felt like, okay, maybe now it's time to put this attitude into the studio and not only into the side project. So every project can become, you can put the same effort in every project as if it was a side project. And it's not always like this. We have like ugly clients and mean people that we work with, but they are less and less, I think.
Thank you so much for also answering the questions. We have only 1 minute left. There are many more questions coming up, and it was basically like really inspiring to see, because it's also like really important the values you have and your clients have. If they don't align, like you will never be happy even if the result is good enough. So there's a question about the AI. What is your take on AI in design? And also another question about the presentation, like what is the, what do you consider a good presentation? Because I believe this was really impactful. For me, it was really inspiring. I would say that if you can like really shortly get to that, please go ahead. Otherwise, we would love to have you again. I mean, I would love to hear from you more, and we shall see. So yeah, since our time is over, I will just ask you to briefly close the talk with your inspiring words, and then we can see if we can get another hold of you in another time.
Very briefly on the AI, I fall in love with it the very first time it was out. I've been playing with Midjourney from the very beginning, and it was... Oh, sorry. Thank you. I like the old people. And then I'm kind of bored of it. There are still a few things that get me excited, but
I don't think it's possible to go short with this.
no, it's not bad, but it's not even that good. That's the brief question. And don't get me started on the rights and...
It can be good for ideas, maybe.
Yeah, that's too long. There was the other one about what is a good presentation. I think it's the same advice as we do for everything. It's share things that you care about and try to put in the presentation everything that people won't be able to see on Instagram, because that's the thing. I mean, we are constantly exposed to that, but it's super fun and fine to get inspo from everywhere and to get to know many things. But I feel that you never get too deep into anything. So these are the opportunities to somehow speak about our job and our way of seeing things on a deeper level.
Thank you so much again and again. It was really, for me, it was also like really important to hear from your own, perspective. And also we are really adoring the new CI. We are like really trying our best to put it everywhere. So hopefully we get to meet each other in person.
Yes.
And again, thank you so much for this presentation as well. I wish you a really nice evening, and yeah, hope to see you soon again.
You too. Thank you very much.
Have a nice
Bye,
day.
people.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.